Hey guys, Ryan Lutz here with Tekno RC, and today I want to kind of go over your Nitro vehicle and getting it ready for the new season, and just also maintenance that you would do between rounds or before the mains after qualifying. So I have here my BLOK 21AM engine, and this is the engine I've now been running for about a year now, a little over a year, and you can just see by my results last year, my results were very consistent, the best I've ever really had, and I attribute a lot of that to the BLOK engine. And I was able to finish first at Silver State in Truggy, TQ at Nitro Challenge in Truggy, third at the Nationals in Truck, and then also second at the Nationals in Buggy. So really good, consistent results, kind of the best of my career, and a lot of that's attributed to this. So I kind of want to just go over the engine a little bit and some maintenance items to make sure you look at to make sure you're finishing your Nitro races. So come take a close look. Alright, now one of the first things you'll notice is that I still have my pressure line attached here. And what that is I've basically taken the pressure line off the top of the tank and fit it here onto the fuel nipple. And what that does, it just makes sure you're not letting dirt in when you're taking the engine off of the vehicle. You just don't want to get any dirt into an engine. That spells death to an engine. So make sure you're constantly replacing air filters. Make sure you're taking a look at them underneath, making sure they're clean. And just replace those often. That's a cheap insurance to keep everything clean. You can also take your filter off and you can look down and make sure there's no dirt on your venturi. So just anything like that you can make sure to keep it clean on the inside. Oh, also, definitely if you do not run some kind of rubber band or throttle return, I highly recommend it. I see this often, people that have problems tuning their engine. A lot of times it's simply not closing when they let off the throttle, and having a rubber band will help make sure that it closes completely when you let off the throttle, as long as your endpoints are set properly. So I just use, these are little hair ties, little rubber band hair ties, and just find them at a drugstore for like $1, and those work really well. And replace them if you start seeing them wear out, but just something that can nice and close that. Don't make it too tight, because then you're putting undue stress onto your throttle servo. So find your happy medium there. And try to make sure, depending where you have this linkage here, is how you want to route your rubber bands. If my linkage was more up here instead of back here, I would probably have one rubber band going both directions behind here to try to make the stress and the pulling on this be as even as possible. But since mine's back here, it's a pretty nice straight shot there, because you don't want to put undue stress on your carb slide either. So next, I'll be taking apart the clutch. So let's take a look at the shoes here. And I'll do this sometimes after practice, or maybe after the first qualifier if I've ran a lot of practice. And I just take the bearings. These are TKO special black blue steel bearings. So these bearings I feel are the best on the market by far. With just a little bit of care, they can last a gallon plus. So I just basically take them out, take a nice clean microfiber, wipe them off, and then give them a little bit of a spin, make sure they still feel good. If they're starting to feel a little dry, I'll put a dab of bearing oil in them. But otherwise, just drop them back in, and they sit with the black seal facing outward. So, well, this black seal would go towards the clutch, and then the other black seal would face out. So I call it black out. They're both facing out away from each other. So that's the bearings, and then the shoes. Now, I'll do this throughout qualifying if I ran a lot. But I take a look at the shoes, and I decide, for one, if they need replaced or if they just need cleaned up. And if you know me, I use an X-Acto for everything. So a lot of times, if they're not too bad on this inside rail here, let's see if I can show you a little better. On this inside rail, I will just take that X-Acto and clean them up. See if I can show this better for you. So kind of like being a dentist. I just take the X-Acto, clean off the burrs on the edges there and here. Please make sure not to cut yourself. Now the other option, of course, if you're not comfortable with that, is to take the shoe off And then you can use a Dremel with some kind of sanding type bit, and you can clean off the edges of the shoe that way. So those are a couple options there as far as cleaning the edges off. And then make sure to keep an eye on this inside edge, because you don't want this to mushroom over and start hitting the flywheel, because then your shoes will start catching when you're driving, and you don't want that. So make sure everything feels good here, and then make sure your clutch nut is tight, and I crank down on this thing. Don't be afraid. Really use some muscle behind it. Make sure that's tight. You don't want that coming loose. That'll lock up your whole clutch assembly during a run. So I put a dab of Loctite when that is being built for the first time on those threads on the crankshaft. Just a tiny little bit of blue. And then as far as if you're using the Tekno clutch here, on these screws, you don't want to use Loctite, and you don't want to over tighten them. They stay snug and tight very easily. So when I'm tightening them up, it's basically, I feel it's pretty much stop, give it a little push past, and that's it, done. So those can be easy to strip out if you try to torque them down, and then you can't get them back off either. One other indicator that we found pretty useful if you really want to get the most life out of your shoes before they start to really affect performance is you can measure your shoes and how much they've worn, measuring from kind of the tip of one to the tip of the other one on the opposite side. And 23.4 mil is about your limit of how low you want to go on that. So that can be your indicator that you know those shoes need to be thrown away and replaced at that time. Also, your springs, we suggest replacing the springs if they become discolored, or about every 2-3 times that you've replaced your shoes. So hopefully those indicators will help you out in determining if your shoes are needing replaced or not. You're ready to put it all back together. Just throw the bearing on. And then make sure you check your shimming as well. So once that's tight, you want about a 1 to 2/10 play here, back and forth. Just a little bit. So you want to have free action there. You want that little bit of play because the metal is going to expand when it gets hot. So just that little bit. If you have too much, you can wear out bearings quicker, and if it's too tight, likewise. Or it can all lock up because it gets hot. So there's the clutch part. And then exhaust-wise, you want to make sure that your gaskets are good. If you've seen oil leaking around here or on your side guard, you can a lot of times know that this gasket's going bad. It's also important to make sure when you mount this in your car that it's dead straight. You're not trying to torque it like this. I see this quite often, and that's just going to wear out your gasket quicker and create air leaks. So make sure everything's as straight as possible. Change those gaskets often. That's another way to keep air out. Just keep your engine running better. And just make sure even your cinch bolt here is snug. I've seen these come loose sometimes, so make sure this is tightened up. You can use Loctite on that if you like. And that's about it. You know, getting your engine ready to go. And then you can install it in your car and make sure your linkages are all set and be off to the races. So there are some tips and tricks for you to really make sure that your Nitro program is solid and you're finishing all your races. So I hope that helped you out, can help you with your maintenance, and if you want to see more, come back next time. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye-bye.